What's up, guys? It's Victoria from Under Victoria's Spell, and today I'm going to be talking about all the things that I have read in the month of August, and later on in the video I'm going to be talking about my plans for September and all the books I'm really excited to read. So let's just hop right into it. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about the 9 books that I have read in the month of August, and I feel like this is really good for me because I'm just getting back into reading, and I was also moving this month, so it has been a crazy month of moving in, which I love my new apartment with my fiance. And I was kind of making a move within my job, and it's just been a crazy month, but I got a lot of good reading done. I'm so excited to talk about these books. I have 8 completed and my 9th one I'm hoping to have done by the time that this video will go up on September 1st. So I'm just gonna hop right into it, and I am working on my editing skills, so I'm hopefully gonna have pictures up here of the books for you guys. But my first book of the month was Anyone But Rich, and that is book 1 in Anyone But series, and it's by Penelope Bloom. And let me just say, I DNF'd this book. This was the first book of the month that I was so ready to go on a high and start out the month, and this book was just not for me. I gave it 2 stars. Even though I DNF'd it, it would have been a 2-star read for me. And this followed the King brothers. So there's 3 books in the series, and this is Rich, and I believe the other 2 is Anyone But Nick and Anyone But I feel like it's Jax, but I could be wrong. But this follows Rich and who is our heroine? I cannot remember her name off the top of my head, but the main guy's named Rich, as I've said 30 times. But this starts out whenever they are in high school, and something happens between the heroine and the hero to where the heroine and her best friends have made a pact with each other to not coexist with the King brothers, or never date them, never talk to them, never forgive them for the sins that they have committed against these women. And I thought the concept was amazing. I was like, okay, this is gonna be like an enemies to lovers romance, and I'm here for it. But one thing that bothers me so much, and I talked about this in my 5 Things I Hate in Romance books, is the cattiness between women. And her friends were just so controlling and so high schoolish, and their friendship was just toxic, and I just didn't like to see that. Like, it's been 7 years, and I feel like it's time to grow up. So I feel like they still shouldn't be acting like they're in high school. I understand them making the pact and not wanting to forgive these men, that's fine, but the way they were acting was like they were still in high school, and it was just too catty for me. And I thought that the heroine just wasn't, like, she was a little annoying to me. I hate saying that about heroines, but she just seemed really annoying, and it felt a little bit like too insta-love, and there was too many plots going on between why the brothers were back in town, their pact as friends to not forgive these brothers, and then there was the heroine's dad, and like that was a plot as well, and it was just felt like all over the place. I believe I DNF'd it at 42%, so I couldn't even get through all of it. I was listening to it on audio. It's a free read and listen on Kindle Unlimited, and I just could not. I was like, I'm sorry. I really wanted to like it. The cover is absolutely beautiful, but the story was just not for me. So I'm sorry for anybody that likes this book, but I just cannot get into it. But my next read came back, and it was Give Me More by Sarah Kate. You all already know, if you've seen my other video, how much I love Sarah Kate. She's a new to me author, and I have just devoured her books this month. I'm gonna try not to talk about them too much because I do have a video on Sarah Kate, but I actually read these books out of order. They are standalones, but I do think that you can read, I would read them in order because the other couples are in the books. But I started out with Give Me More because Tiffany from Tiff Talks Pages here on YouTube, she talked so highly of this book, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna read it. And this follows Hunter, Isabel, and Drake. And Hunter and Isabel are a married couple. They are coming up on their 10-year wedding anniversary. And Drake is Hunter's best friend. They grew up together. So, and they've kind of just always all been together. So currently the three of them are on a road trip for the Salacious Players Club, looking at other sex clubs to kind of get some more ideas for their current club, or kind of bring people into their club to help get more variety of people that they will see in Salacious Players Club. So they're on this cross-country road trip, and Hunter gets this idea in his head, and it kind of changes the dynamic completely. This story was so amazing because it had a really good foundation of a really healthy marriage. Marriage where they could talk to their spouse and be open and honest and caring. And this also was a really good story for Drake, who was dealing with his sexuality, and also Hunter dealing with his sexuality and their marriage, and how they all had feelings for each other, and their friendship, and how so many things played together, and they were so worried about not hurting one another or not making one upset. The angst in this freaking book, I was dying. I could not put it down. It was so good, so spicy. You just wanted to keep turning until you got to the end of the book. This honestly has probably been my favorite read of the entire year thus far. It was so good, and I was sad when the book was over because I felt so connected to these characters, but it was so good. And this is not an age gap romance. I know a lot of people don't like age gap. They are all the same age. I think Isabel's like a little bit younger than Hunter, her husband, but this is a best friends to lover, polyamorous, spicy, travel romance. So good. You have to pick this up. If you've never tried Sarah Kate and you want something that's gonna blow you out of the water, this is the one for you. So good. I'm gonna stop talking about this after I said I wasn't gonna go on and on about it. Next, I picked up another Sarah Kate, and that is the first book in her series, and that's Praise. And Praise follows Charlie and Emerson. And I had kind of heard a little bit about like people talking about how much they loved Emerson Grant, and I did not really understand. Well, honey, I read this book and I understood why people love him. This is the first book in the Salacious Players Club series, so if you're wanting to go in order, this is book number 1. And Charlie is our heroine, or Charlotte, but she goes by Charlie. And she had just broken up with her ex-boyfriend, and she's wanting to get the security deposit back from her ex-boyfriend, and it got sent to the ex's dad. And that just so happens to be Emerson Grant. Well, obviously, Emerson owns a sex club, so he's going to be into some kinky things. So he thinks that Charlie is his new submissive and someone that he is supposed to be praising. So whenever they first meet for the first time, he immediately says, "Get on your knees." And she's like, "I'm going to do anything for this money because I need it to survive and live." So she complies to this, and it just kind of kicks off from there. It is so good. I read this in one day. 5-star read for me. This is an age gap romance. Disclaimer for people who do not like age gap romances. This is ex-boyfriend's dad. Steamy, kinky, so good. I really, really loved their chemistry together. You could tell and feel their chemistry. One of my favorite scenes in the book was whenever they're sitting at a desk together and she's like touching his heart line. That scene, if you've read the book, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. That just melted my heart, and I could feel the chemistry in that moment. Like, it had me gripped. So it was so good. So they're kind of secretly being dom and submissive without Emerson's son, Bo, finding out, and it is a crazy roller coaster that you're definitely going to want to tune into. And the last book that I've read completely out of order for Sarah Kate is Eyes on Me. And this is the second book. This follows Garrett and Mia. By the way, I'm looking over here at my Goodreads so that I can tell you which order I read my books in. And Garrett is a voyeur. That means he likes to watch. And Mia is a cam girl. And they're step siblings. And Garrett runs into Mia on this campsite and pretends to be Drake from book 3. And so he pretends to be Drake and gets to know Mia on a different level than he's ever seen her before. And this romance was really sweet because Garrett has a dark past. He deals with mental health issues, and he is just very reserved, and he doesn't think that he's ever going to find someone, and he's fine with that. And Mia has been in love with Garrett since she was a kid. And she is just wanting Garrett to see her in a different light. So they have this cat and mouse game, and it is so good. I really, really loved this romance. It was another 5-star read for me. I definitely think that if you love a step siblings romance, if you love a taboo romance, a steamy romance, this is definitely one for you. Sarah Kate is just honestly one of my favorite authors of the entire year. And Mercy is the last book in the series thus far, and I just got done reading that, but I'm gonna go and talk about it since I am talking about Sarah Kate. And so Mercy by Sarah Kate was a 4 to 4.5 star read for me. This follows Emerson's son Bo from book 1 and Maggie, who is also another owner of the Salacious Players Club, and this is their romance. This is another age gap romance. This is a dom sub relationship. It's a reverse harem. So good. I've never read a reverse harem quite like this before. It was very, very unique. I really loved Maggie coming into her own as she is dealing with her wanting to be a dom, and she's, you know, falling in love with her best friend's son. And if you know Bo from book 1, then you know how chaotic he is, and to see him from where he was in book 1 to his book in book 4 is like night and day. I loved him by the end of this book. It was so good. And another thing, that if you do not like third act breakups, this is a book for you. This is a no breakup in the third act. I was so happy because the whole time I was reading it, I was like, God, like, when are they gonna break up? Something's gonna happen. And nothing did, surprisingly. So I was so happy about that. I really loved how the book ended. The only reason it wasn't a 5-star for me was because I really would have liked to see the other characters from the previous book in this book a lot more. I feel like in the other books you kind of got a little bit more glimpses of them and their relationship with each other, and you kind of didn't get that when it came to Maggie and Bo's story. So I really wish I could have seen that. They were in it some, but not as much as I would have liked. But it was still a really good read, and you definitely should check it out. I loved it. The next read that I have got to, actually, I thought I was done with Sarah Kate. I'm not. I read Gravity, which is book 1 in the Wild Boys series by Sarah Kate. This one was so good. I think I gave this one a 4-star. I did. Okay, so this follows Alistair Wilde, Nash Wilde, and well, I'm so bad with my heroines' names. I don't know what it is, and our heroine. And so our heroine has a twin sister, and Nash had a brother who died in a plane accident, or a helicopter accident, I'm sorry. And so this is a story really about grief and anger and resentment and getting over fears. And Alistair is Nash's dad. And so an opportunity comes up for our heroine to be on the same island as the father and the son. And it is the romance. I will just say that this was like, I didn't know which way it was gonna go every time I started a new chapter. I was like, do I love Nash? Do I love Alistair? What is going on? I'm not someone who really likes violence when it comes to my steamy scenes, but there is violence in this book. So if that's a trigger for you, make sure you look up your trigger warnings. Consent is another thing that I would look into if that's something that you're triggered about. Just check your trigger warnings. This was a really good book. I do think that our heroine was a little bit naive and stubborn. I do think that Nash, who is in this book, was chaotic and has some deep issues. And I think Alistair is someone who also has deep issues, but has a really caring heart at the end of the day. It's still a really good book. I plan on reading book 2, and that follows the other person that she does not end up with, so I'm not going to spoil it if you have not read it, but I plan on getting to book 2 soon. I think it's called Free for All, I believe, but that's my last Sarah Kate book. Might as well just be Sarah Kate month. But the next book that I read, which I DNF'd, and I really hate to say this because this is a book that so many people love, and it's Ruthless Creatures by J.T. Gessinger, and it's book 1 in the Queen of Monsters series. And I wanted to love this book so much. The concept to me was just something that I could totally see myself loving. And I DNF'd, I believe, at 38% into this book. And I'll get into why. Let me tell you a little bit about the book first. This follows our heroine and our hero. And our heroine's fiance went missing 5 years ago. And she's still dealing with the grief of him being missing, possibly being dead. And Cage is who is the hero, is her new neighbor, and he has pretty much, spoiler alert, he's sent to kill her, pretty much. What I took from the 38% that I had read into the book, that he was supposed to kill her due to something to do with her fiance. And The concept was so good, but I hate insta love. And Cage was so infatuated with her, was like ready to lay down his life after not even having a conversation with her. And that's too insta love for me. That's too toxic for me. And that killed my vibe of any interest in the book whatsoever. Their connection was just like, how can you have all this chemistry with someone that you just met? And I understand that like some books, like you can do that, but I feel like the circumstances that she was in, you know, her fiance being missing, that she would be a little bit more guarded. And I just was like, I'm not interested in this. Cage is way too much for me. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love a touch her and you die hero, but he was a little bit too intense with me with his heroine. So I was like, I don't have time to read books that are going to possibly annoy me. I will DNF a book so quickly because I really value my time when I'm reading. And the last book that I'm going to talk about that I have completed was definitely the most unique read of the month. And that is There Are No Saints by Sophie Lark. This was also a book that had been on my radar for such a long time. And I was so excited to get to it because all of my booktuber friends are really big fans of Sophie Lark, and I've also read Still Beating by her, and I absolutely loved it. It was a 5-star read for me, and this book was one for the books. This followed Maria and why can I never remember my hero's name? And our hero, and I know it's not Shaw because he's like the other guy in there, but our hero and heroine, I'm just going to start saying that instead of people's names. But this is who it follows, and our hero is a artist, and he gets his art in a very unique way of killing people. And he is in competition with another artist who also likes to kill people, but very violently. And Maria, who is our heroine, she is an artist who does not kill people, but she is kind of like a starving artist. She's had a very hard life. And our hero is rich and famous and one of the most prestigious artists in the town. And one night, Maria is kidnapped by another character in this book and left out for our hero to do something about it. Instead, he does not act on his killer instincts and decides to kind of just forget that he even saw her in the position that she was in. This story follows their journey from that point on to Maria figuring out what happened to her, why it happened to her getting into the art world. And this story was very odd to me. If I hadn't heard someone like my booktuber friends talk about it, I would have never picked this up because it's not something that I'm normally interested in. But I had to finish the book because I was like, I have to know what happens. So it was a very good read. I believe that I gave this one 4 stars, and I really loved how different it was, and I loved the emotional moments that they did have with each other. I loved the growth that came from both characters. It was very, very good. The book 1 does not end in an HEA. It does end on a sort of semi cliffhanger. And honestly, I don't know if I'm in the mental headspace to pick up book 2 because there is another one in the series. I just don't know. But I love Sophie Lark. She has such good books. I will pick it up eventually, but I was like, I just need a break from that crazy roller coaster so that I can chillax. So my last book that I'm currently reading, which I'm hoping to have finished by the time that this video goes up, and that is Twisted Games, I believe. That's what I'm reading. No, Twisted Love. That's what I'm reading. And that's book number 1 in Twisted series. Again, so many of my booktuber friends have read the series and it's been on my TBR list. So I was like, I'm finally just going to pick it up because I need something different from the roller coaster reads that I have read this month. And I'm only like 8% into it at the time that I'm filming this video. But it's so good so far. I really want to read the whole series. I've heard such good things about the series and I cannot wait to finish it. All I know is that it's following a girl and her brother's best friend. That's legit all I know. And her brother is moving to a different country for a year because he's in med school, and he has asked his best friend to watch after his sister. That's as far as I've gotten into the book, but so far so good. This is also a new to me author as well. But that is all the books that I have read in the month of August. I'm so excited to be reading some new things in the month of September. I'm doing the 2 read-alongs that are hosted by Oh Hey, That's McKay. Oh Hey, It's McKay, sorry. Live a Novel Life, Peace Love Books, Sam Reads a Little, That Tall Book Girl. They are hosting 2 read-alongs in the month of September, and that's the Tempt Me series and also their Taboo read-along or readathon. So I have planned out my books for this month coming up, and I normally never do that, so I'm going to try it out. But I am so excited. Thank you guys so much for watching, and sorry this was such a long-winded hot mess of a video. But if you are subscribed to me, you might as well get used to my scatterbrained self. And let me know what you have read this month. What was your favorite book? And if you have a YouTube channel, please comment it down below so that I can check it out. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.